There is a moment that has been filmed dozens of times across North America, Europe, and Asia, and it never stops looking wrong. A bald eagle, wingspan over 2 meters, talons capable of exerting 400 pounds of pressure per square inch, the apex aerial predator of the American continent, is being chased across the sky by crows. Not one crow, a group of them, screaming, diving, making physical contact, following the eagle for extended distances at altitude until it leaves the area entirely. The eagle is not hurt. It is not being driven away by anything that could physically stop it. A bald eagle that chose to retaliate against a crow would, in most circumstances, win that contest. The crow knows this. The eagle knows this. And yet the eagle leaves. Not because it cannot fight back, because in some calculation running through an apex predator's nervous system, the crow has made itself not worth dealing with. How a bird that weighs roughly half a kilogram accomplishes this? Against eagles, against red-tailed hawks, against great horned owls, and in specific, documented incidents, against people, is one of the more illuminating stories in behavioral biology. And it is a story almost entirely about intelligence rather than strength. The behavior has a specific name in the scientific literature: mobbing. Mobbing is not random aggression. It is a coordinated, socially organized anti-predator strategy used by crows and several other highly social bird species, in which a group converges on a known predator, maintains noisy, aggressive proximity to it, makes physical contact in dive-bombing passes, and sustains the harassment until the predator disengages from the area. The evolutionary logic is precise and documented. Apex raptors, eagles, large hawks, great horned owls kill crow eggs, crow nestlings, and juvenile crows. A single great horned owl operating freely in a crow's territory during nesting season can destroy an entire year's reproductive investment. A bald eagle passing through can take a fledgling before a parent crow has time to respond. The crow cannot match the eagle in a direct confrontation, so it does not attempt one. Instead, it does something that, from a purely mechanical standpoint, an eagle should be able to simply ignore. It makes itself annoying enough, loud enough, persistent enough, and unpredictable enough that the eagle's cost-benefit calculation shifts. The energy required to hunt in a territory where you are being harassed constantly, where your approach is announced to every potential prey animal within earshot, and where small fast birds are diving at your head at irregular intervals. That cost eventually exceeds the value of whatever the eagle was hunting for in that location. The crow wins not by being stronger. It wins by making the stronger animal's presence too expensive to maintain. What makes crows specifically effective at this, beyond any other bird species that also engages in mobbing behavior, is what they bring to the strategy that most other birds do not have. The first is recruitment. When crows identify a predator, they produce specific vocalizations that function as broadcast alerts to every crow within range. The call that announces a hawk or owl draws crows from significant distances, rapidly assembling a mob that can reach dozens of individuals from a single initial sighting. The noise itself serves a second function simultaneously. It announces the predator's exact location to every prey animal in the surrounding area, eliminating the predator's ability to use surprise, which is the primary hunting mechanism of the great horned owl and many hawk species. A predator whose location has been announced to the entire forest has lost its most important asset. The second advantage crows bring is memory. Individual crows remember specific predators, their appearance, their flight patterns, their usual approach routes, and respond to recognized individuals with greater intensity than to unknown animals encountering their territory for the first time. A raptor that has been mobbed in a crow's territory before is recognized as a known threat when it returns. The intensity of the response escalates accordingly. The third advantage is learning transmission. Young crows that observe mobbing behavior from adults learn both the target and the technique. A fledgling crow that watches its parents mob a specific red-tailed hawk learns that red-tailed hawks are things to mob, and learns the specific signals that initiate and sustain the behavior. The information moves through the social group across generations in a way that simple instinct does not allow, meaning that a crow population's accumulated threat knowledge grows and persists over time, rather than resetting with each generation. The research that most precisely documents how far crow intelligence takes this process was conducted by John Marsluff and his colleagues at the University of Washington beginning in 2006, and the findings have been influential enough in behavioral science that they are worth describing in detail rather than summarizing. Marsluff's team wanted to test whether crows could recognize specific individual human faces, not humans in general, but specific people, and whether that recognition persisted over time and spread through social groups. The experimental design was built to isolate face recognition from every other possible cue. Researchers wore rubber masks while trapping and banding wild crows on the University of Washington campus. One mask, a rubber caveman face, was designated the dangerous mask. Researchers wearing it trapped 7 to 15 crows at 5 different sites, banding them and releasing them unharmed. A separate neutral mask was worn by researchers walking the same routes without trapping anyone. The crow's response to the dangerous mask was immediate and intense. This was expected. What happened over the following months and years was not. Researchers continued walking campus routes wearing the masks without trapping any birds. The dangerous mask continued to draw immediate scolding, dive-bombing, and mobbing behavior every time it appeared. Not just from birds that had been trapped, from crows that had only watched the capture from above, circling and calling in the mob. From young crows that had never been present at a trapping at all, who had learned to scold the dangerous face from their parents. Over 5 years of tracking, the response to the dangerous mask grew rather than faded. On one later walk, Marsluff was scolded by 47 of the 53 crows he passed, far more birds than had ever been present at any single trapping event. The recognition persisted for at least 2.7 years from a single encounter, which was the documented period the peer-reviewed paper was prepared to stand behind. The neutral mask, walked by the same people on the same routes, drew almost no response. What the crows had done was build a distributed, socially transmitted database of a specific threat, update it continuously as new individuals learned it from existing members of the group, and maintain it across years. Across, in some cases, the lifespans of the individual birds who originally learned it, through a process of cultural transmission that operates on timescales, and with a precision that researchers studying it describe as remarkable even in the context of corvid intelligence generally. The practical consequence of this memory system for apex predators is specific and documented. Research on hawk behavior in territories with active crow populations shows that hawks learn to avoid areas where they have been mobbed intensively. They adjust their routes. They hunt where harassment is lower. Young hawks that encounter aggressive crow territories early in their development learn these avoidance patterns faster than older birds encountering novel crow mobbing for the first time. The great horned owl, one of the most effective nocturnal predators in North America and a significant threat to crow nests specifically because it hunts at night when crows cannot see to respond, maintains a territorial relationship with crow populations that wildlife observers describe as a sustained Cold War. Crows roost communally at night, partly for the safety of numbers, and they know where great horned owls are. Daytime mobbing of owls that crows have located serves the additional function of driving the owl from a position it might use for night hunting later. The crow is attacking not the immediate threat, but the strategic position the predator might occupy in the future. This is planning. Not elaborate planning by human standards, but documented, intentional behavior directed at a future state rather than a current one. The crow is not mobbing the owl because the owl is dangerous right now. It is mobbing the owl to change where the owl will be tonight. The crow's capacity to treat humans as individual threats, recognized by face, tracked over years, information about them transmitted to offspring who never experienced the original encounter, sits in a category of animal intelligence that behavioral researchers are still working to fully characterize. Most animals have 2 basic threat response options: specific instinctive responses to specific stimuli, and generalized learned avoidance of categories of threat. The crow appears to be doing something closer to a third thing, maintaining individual-level threat profiles for specific animals, including specific humans, and updating and sharing those profiles through its social network. The brain regions activated in crows during face recognition tasks are, according to neuroimaging research conducted in the wake of the Marsluff fieldwork, not unlike the regions activated in mammals during the same tasks. The crow arrived at a similar functional outcome to human facial recognition through a completely different neural architecture. a convergent evolution of social intelligence that is one of the most striking examples of similar solutions appearing in unrelated lineages. Here is what the behavior of apex predators around crow territories actually reflects, stripped of any interpretive frame. Eagles leave when crows mob them. Not always. Not every eagle on every occasion. But consistently enough in documented field observations and controlled studies to establish that the crow's strategy works, that a bird weighing less than half a kilogram with no talons capable of doing serious damage to a 2-meter raptor regularly causes that raptor to disengage and relocate. It does this through a combination of numerical coordination, broadcast communication, persistent harassment, strategic position denial, long-term individual memory, and social transmission of threat information that persists across generations of birds who never experienced the original encounter. The eagle is afraid of the crow, not because the crow is dangerous in the conventional sense. It is afraid of the crow because the crow has made it expensive, conspicuous, and ultimately unprofitable to be in that territory. Intelligence, organized socially and applied with patience, turns out to be more effective than size more often than the animal kingdom's physical hierarchy would suggest. The crow figured this out. The eagle had no choice but to respond accordingly.